We have another young Indian with us today, part of the Voice of the Young series. Hello, everyone. Good to be back. Right now, we have with us Suhani Jain. Let's listen to her. Over to you, Suhani.
Hi, hello everyone. Sir has already mentioned my name. My name is Suhani Jain. I was born and brought up in Jaipur, did my schooling in Jaipur. Post that, I went for my undergrad to Lady Shriram College for Women, where I studied economics and mathematics. I had a great experience studying there. I developed an interest in the social impact sector while I was in college, and I continued that in my job journey as well. So as soon as I graduated, I started working with an edtech startup called Bridged, where I worked on developing a financial literacy curriculum for students coming from underprivileged backgrounds, primarily from Bangalore. After which I worked with the government of Delhi with their education department for a while. And currently I'm working at Deloitte with their social impact team. I'm working as a social impact analyst. I will be completing 2 years in Feb 2024 next year. My work primarily revolves around doing a lot of monitoring and evaluations and impact assessments for the projects that are running for CSR of different companies. Along with that, we also get the opportunity to sometimes work on strategy pieces with some government organizations, and there's different kind of work that keeps coming in terms of strategy and monitoring and evaluation mostly. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay, but tell us more what you went through and why you didn't do a master's degree. You felt you had to, it was better for you to take a job and so on. So these are the issues people would be interested in.
Right. So while I was in college, I developed an interest in behavioral sciences, which I am still very interested in. It's a field that I'm still very interested in, because it's essentially a combination of economics and psychology. It also includes a lot of other subjects like anthropology, sociology, etc. But primarily, it's like a combination of economics and psychology. So since I was interested in psychology as well, um, when I was in school, I knew that this is something that, I could pursue in the future. But when I was in college, I also realized that sometimes the ROI when you go for your master's, which is your, return on investment, might not be that great. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's just my perception of a master's degree. I personally believe that if, I end up going for a master's, it should be at a time when I'm mature enough to leverage the degree properly. And it should add more value to my profile. And at that time, when I was still in college, I figured that, I'm not very sure about what course I wanted to pursue, even though I had my inclination towards behavioral sciences. I figured that maybe it'll be good for me to get into the job market and actually see for myself how it is. So that's primarily the reason why I ended up going for a job and not going for a master's.
Okay, and how easy was it to get a job?
So I actually didn't sit for placements in my college. And if you know anything about DU, you'll know that there is a whole placement cycle that takes place when you're in your third year. A lot of people end up sitting for placements, and a lot of companies come in. It's consulting companies, banks, other sort of product companies, a lot of different companies come. But I decided not to sit for those placements because um, I wanted to explore the social impact space a little bit. And there weren't a lot of opportunities that came in, from within the space. There were only two job opportunities that came in when I was in college, and that was Dalberg and ID Insights. For Dalberg, I didn't get in. So I did apply, but I didn't get in. I didn't make it. So that was the reason why I didn't sit for placements otherwise, other than Dalberg. So it was after Dalberg that I decided, after I didn't get into Dalberg, that I decided to, not sit for placements, because there weren't any companies that were interesting for me. So then I decided to, get in touch with other people. It did take me a couple of months before I started working. So a lot of my friends had already started working, I think sometime around July or August of 22, which is when we had graduated. but I started working only in November, December.
Okay.
So, it took me around 2-3 months to find a job, to get in touch with people, etc. Because I had to start everything from scratch. It was essentially me trying to build my network on LinkedIn. I used to reach out to a lot of people on LinkedIn. I used to connect with a lot of people on LinkedIn, and then I would get on calls with them. There were different avenues through which, I tried to get in touch with them. There are these different groups on Facebook, on LinkedIn. So you become a part of them, and then, you keep seeing job postings there. So that was my
Yeah.
way of getting, at least I remember around that time I got around 4-5 interviews with a couple of companies, and I decided to go ahead with the Bridged.
Oh, we are back after an internet glitch. Let's continue, Suhani. Let's continue.
Right. So yeah, so essentially it took me around 2 to 3 months to, get back into the job market in that sense. I reached out to a lot of people primarily through LinkedIn and through these groups that we have on Facebook. So that was my main, that was the primary way in which I, ended up reaching out to people and ended up interacting with people. So that's how I got a couple of interviews with a couple of companies, and yeah, I ended up going with Bridge because I also had an inclination towards the education sector within the social impact space. So I thought this would be the best way to explore that
Okay.
space.
All right. And you were successful in that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then why the shift? Why did so many shifts in such a short time?
So when I was working with the edtech startup, the good thing about working in that space is that you get to learn a lot within a short span of time, and you also get to do a lot of work, different kind of work, which might not be very aligned to your profile, to your JD.
Yeah.
But because it's a startup, and because it's a small organization, then you will end up doing a lot of different kind of work. So that I think was a great learning experience for me. But at the same time, there are a lot of other things. I mean, I'll just be frank in terms of the pay, in terms of, how you know that you want to also exceed in terms of ensuring that you also want to ensure that, you have financial stability. So you also want to sort of weigh in your decisions on the basis of that. And that was primarily the reason why I wanted to, make a shift. Frankly, if I would have been paid enough to stay in that job, I would have loved to do that, because, that's direct impact. The
Yeah.
kind of work that was being done, it impacts the people directly, as
Okay.
compared to, let's say, working for a consulting firm where your
Yeah.
impact is not that direct. But then
Yeah.
at the same time, it's also very niche. You can only cater to a very few people. So I also wanted to explore in terms of seeing, how projects work on a larger scale.
Okay.
So that was my reason for shifting.
Okay. And after the shift, did this happen? What you wanted?
It did. So when I started working with the Delhi government, I really enjoyed the work there. Even though I worked there only for 4-5 months, my work there was very interesting, because I was working on this project called Schools of Specialized Excellence, which have actually started now in Delhi, where students get in through an aptitude test, and it's for students above the grade of 9th. So once the students make to the school, they'll basically they'll be taught a specialized subject. It could be in STEM, it could be in humanities, or it could be in visual arts, etc. And it's specialized education for that particular stream that you choose. So that was a very interesting project that I worked on. And I think the government of Delhi, at least the AAP party, has a very strong hold on their education schemes. So it was a very um, I would say a very enthusiastic team working on these projects. So that was a great learning experience. But around the same time, I also got an opportunity from Deloitte. So I thought it was the right time for me to, make a move to the corporate world and see what it entails. Because as a young professional, I also wanted to experience all the different aspects
Mhm.
of this field. So I had worked with the startup, and then I had worked with the government, and then I realized that, this could be my chance to work with the corporate and see
Okay.
how consulting functions, and what it's
Mhm.
like to
Mhm.
be in the consulting space.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was my reason for making the move.
Okay, and of course
So
they
it's
pay
good.
well.
Yeah,
There's no
that's what
question.
I that's what
They
I hope. That's what I tell myself, that it did. But I would say that it did, because at Deloitte, we do end up doing a lot of field visits as well. So it keeps you in touch with the ground reality of what is actually happening through these projects. So that's a very interesting
okay,
thing
so
about working in this space.
is it confidential, or you can tell us about one of the field visits? You don't have to say the name of the place
Yeah.
if you cannot. Okay, just your impressions.
I can actually take the names of the places. That's not a problem. So we end up going to rural areas in different parts of the country. So my first field visit was in Tamil Nadu, in Madurai, where we explored not explored, but we went to work, with one of the implementing partners that are working there. So we essentially visited a lot of villages within rural Madurai, and I personally think that I wouldn't have ever gone to that place otherwise, because um going to Madurai for a trip is, it's not a typical trip destination otherwise, and going to rural Madurai again, if you don't come from that place, would be a difficult, wouldn't be something that I would have done, especially because I'm um yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have done that essentially.
Right.
So I think
Okay.
I got the opportunity to go and explore that part of the country only because of, my work. And when I went there, I figured that there are a lot of cultural differences between North India and South India that I could explore. And I think there's something very unique about the rural areas or the rural parts of the country. And you get to see the authentic side of our country through these um through these areas. So what I got to learn from the women that I interacted with, who are our beneficiaries, um what I got to learn from them, I think, is something that I will always, carry forward with me throughout my life. So that way, just learning about the culture, learning about the different food habits, learning about the different ways of savings, for women in that part of the country was very, very interesting.
Okay.
Um,
All right. Wonderful. All right. Anything else you want to tell us?
Um, no, I think just one thing that when you're very early on in your career, I think this is something that I also struggled a lot with. But one thing that has always helped me is reaching out to people.
Okay.
I think one should never shy away from, reaching out to people. It could be through LinkedIn, it could be through your
Mhm.
school's alumni network, or it could be
Mm.
through Facebook, etc., etc. But yeah, I think my biggest learning has been to, like, not hesitating in reaching out to people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. It has served you well.
Yeah. At least it has served me well. Yeah.
All right. Great. All right. Anything else?
In terms of my work, there's nothing else as such that I'd want to share, except for, if there are any specific questions that I can answer. But yeah,
No,
I
I'm
think
not going to ask you any questions. I'm just saying it's your chance to talk. And if you want to
hmm.
talk about something, I'm happy to listen.
I think I can share a little bit about the kind of work that I was doing when I was with the government of Delhi. And of course, I can also talk a little bit about the work that I'm doing here at Deloitte. But my work with the government of Delhi was, it revolved a lot around project management. So um if there's anyone who wants to, get into this space and work with the government, the one thing to understand is that you will end up working in a lot of um you'll end up working at a project management level, as compared to, let's say, a consulting firm like Deloitte, where you'll end up doing a lot of ground level work, like a lot of grunt work, as they say. So you'll be working on Excel, you'll be working on preparing decks, etc. But in the government, even though I was working as an associate fellow intern, my work still revolved around managing an entire project, or let's say managing one aspect of that project. So
Okay.
it could be the marketing of that project, or it could be the entire campaigning of that project. But then at Deloitte, it's the work is very different that way. So you actually get to learn a lot about, you get to develop a lot on your skill set. Let's say your Excel, your PowerPoint presentation skills, or your communication skills in that way, corporate communication. Um, you'll get to learn a lot about that. But in a government setup, it's more about your project management skills, your people skills.
Okay.
That pays off really well, I
Okay.
think, that way. That's one thing that I've understood
Okay.
because of
All right.
yeah.
Well, I think if that's what you want to share, I think I don't want to ask you more about your work because, it's just work, okay? And everybody has
Yeah.
work and different experiences, but just some general ideas. I think we can end it here today, and we'll see if we can catch up with you 1 year later to see how you're doing, what's happening, what your choices are. So let's say bye to the viewers now. I'll be back with another young person or an expert soon. Till then, bye, everybody. Bye.